It began behind closed palace doors, far from the cameras and ceremonial smiles the public had come to expect. A sudden emergency summit was called with almost no notice, drawing senior royals into one of the most secretive meetings in recent memory. But what truly stunned palace insiders wasn't the gathering itself, it was who found herself standing completely alone when the doors finally opened. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. At first, the reports sounded almost unbelievable. Royal watchers had grown accustomed to hearing whispers of private meetings, confidential discussions, and occasional family disagreements hidden behind palace walls. But this was different. The level of secrecy surrounding this gathering immediately raised eyebrows among those who had spent years observing the monarchy's inner workings. Senior aides were reportedly instructed to clear schedules with little explanation. Planned engagements were quietly adjusted. Communications became unusually restricted. Even experienced palace staff members were allegedly given only the bare minimum information necessary to carry out their duties. Something significant was unfolding, and those closest to the crown appeared determined to keep it hidden for as long as possible. According to growing reports, the emergency summit had been requested after concerns surrounding an escalating internal dispute reached a critical stage. The details remained closely guarded, but sources began suggesting that Prince William himself had pushed for urgent consultations. For years, William had been viewed as a future king, preparing carefully for the enormous responsibilities that awaited him. He rarely acted impulsively, and those familiar with his approach often described him as measured, deliberate, and cautious. That was precisely why the sudden urgency surrounding this summit attracted so much attention. If William believed immediate action was necessary, many suspected the situation had become far more serious than anyone outside palace walls realized. As speculation intensified, another detail quickly emerged. Senior members of the royal family began arriving separately, each under circumstances that seemed increasingly unusual. Princess Anne, known throughout royal circles for her unwavering dedication to duty, reportedly altered her schedule with little notice. Prince Edward followed soon after. Catherine's arrival generated perhaps the greatest interest of all. Usually composed and calm under intense public scrutiny, she was said to carry an unmistakable seriousness that did not go unnoticed by those who observed her movements. The atmosphere surrounding the gathering continued to grow heavier with every passing hour. Then came perhaps the most surprising development. Despite ongoing health concerns and a demanding schedule, King Charles reportedly attended the summit personally. His presence alone transformed what might have been viewed as a routine consultation into something far more consequential. This was no ordinary discussion. The king's decision to participate suggested that the matter at hand touched the very center of royal decision-making. Questions multiplied. What issue could unite so many senior figures so quickly? Why had the summit been assembled with such urgency? And what exactly was at stake behind those closed doors? Yet amid all the uncertainty, attention increasingly focused on one person. Queen Camilla reportedly entered the gathering expecting familiar support from those around her. After years of standing beside the king through triumphs and challenges alike, few would have anticipated anything different. But as discussions unfolded, whispers began spreading that the atmosphere inside the room was not unfolding as many expected. Instead of finding allies prepared to rally behind her position, reports suggest she encountered something far more unsettling. A royal family that appeared unusually united. Long-standing differences seemed to fade, as key figures aligned themselves around a shared concern. What had begun as a private summit was slowly transforming into a defining moment, one that threatened to expose tensions that had been quietly building beneath the surface for years. But the emergency meeting was never really about a single disagreement, it was about years of tension finally reaching a breaking point. Long before the summit was called, whispers of division had been echoing through royal corridors. Small disagreements had been dismissed as routine family tensions. But behind the scenes, something far more serious was taking shape. What appeared to be isolated incidents were actually pieces of a much larger puzzle. The sense of unity that reportedly confronted Camilla during the emergency summit did not emerge overnight. According to palace observers, the foundations of that moment had been quietly forming for months, perhaps even years. Beneath the carefully managed public image of a family moving forward together, deeper differences were allegedly beginning to surface. They were not always dramatic. They rarely appeared in headlines. Instead, they emerged through subtle disagreements, competing priorities, and conflicting ideas about what the monarchy should become in an increasingly uncertain future. To outsiders, these moments seemed insignificant. Inside royal circles, however, they were reportedly becoming impossible to ignore. At the center of many of these tensions stood Prince William. As heir to the throne, he had spent years preparing for responsibilities that extended far beyond public appearances and ceremonial duties. Reports suggest that William increasingly focused on modernizing the institution, while preserving the values he believed made it endure through generations. Yet some insiders claimed that his vision occasionally collided with influences operating elsewhere within the royal household. What may have started as differences in strategy gradually evolved into something more personal, more emotional, and far more difficult to contain. The question was no longer simply how the monarchy should move forward. The question had become, who would shape that future? As these divisions reportedly deepened, disagreements began surfacing around royal priorities, public engagements, and long-term planning. Some believed the institution needed greater discipline and consistency during a period of immense scrutiny. Others favored maintaining established relationships and existing structures. While such debates are hardly unusual within any family, the stakes within the monarchy were entirely different. Every decision carried symbolic weight. Every disagreement had the potential to influence public perception. Every unresolved conflict risked becoming something larger than anyone intended. Throughout this period, Catherine was increasingly viewed as a stabilizing force. Those familiar with royal dynamics often described her as someone capable of bringing calm to situations that might otherwise spiral into deeper division. Her focus reportedly remained fixed on unity, continuity, and protecting the institution from unnecessary turmoil. Yet even her presence could not entirely erase the growing unease that appeared to be spreading through senior royal circles. The pressure was building, slowly, relentlessly, and with each passing month, maintaining harmony seemed to require greater effort than before. At the same time, Princess Anne continued playing a quieter but equally significant role. Rarely drawn into public speculation, Anne had long earned a reputation for placing duty above personal preference. Reports suggest she watched developments carefully, paying close attention to decisions that could affect the monarchy's long-term stability. While she rarely sought attention, many insiders believed her influence carried enormous weight behind closed doors. Her support for institutional continuity was never loud, but it was often decisive. As frustrations accumulated, her perspective reportedly became increasingly important to those concerned about the future direction of the crown. Meanwhile, palace insiders began describing an atmosphere of mounting frustration. Minor disagreements that once faded away now lingered. Conversations became more cautious. Trust reportedly became harder to maintain. Several disputes remained unresolved despite repeated attempts to move forward. What made the situation particularly concerning was not any single conflict, but the growing realization that none of them were truly being settled. Instead, they were accumulating beneath the surface, creating a foundation of tension that threatened to erupt at any moment. By the time the emergency summit was finally called, many of the people involved were no longer reacting to one isolated issue. They were carrying the weight of months of unanswered questions, private concerns, and unresolved frustrations. Every conversation seemed connected to another. Every disagreement appeared linked to something deeper. The pieces of the puzzle were finally beginning to form a picture, and that picture was far more troubling than anyone had imagined when the first whispers began. And as frustrations mounted behind palace walls, one event reportedly pushed everything past the point of no return. The turning point arrived without warning. What began as a routine royal matter allegedly escalated into a confrontation that left even veteran palace staff stunned. Suddenly, long-suppressed concerns were no longer being whispered, they were being spoken aloud. For months, tensions had been building beneath the surface, hidden behind carefully maintained appearances and public displays of unity. Many believed those disagreements would remain private, managed quietly, as so many royal disputes had been before. But according to growing reports, a single incident changed everything. The exact details remain fiercely protected, yet insiders suggest what began as a routine discussion quickly evolved into something far more consequential. Words that had remained unspoken for years were finally brought into the open. Questions that had long been avoided could no longer be ignored. And once those conversations began, there was no way to put them back behind closed doors. Those familiar with palace dynamics claimed the disagreement initially appeared manageable. Royal households regularly navigate differences of opinion, and few expected this particular matter to become a defining moment. Yet, as discussions progressed, emotions reportedly intensified. What started as a debate over immediate concerns gradually expanded into a broader examination of leadership, influence, and the future direction of the monarchy itself. The atmosphere shifted. Long-standing frustrations resurfaced. Old concerns that had been carefully buried suddenly found their way back into the conversation. At the center of it all stood Prince William. Reports suggest that during these private discussions, he raised concerns that had remained largely hidden from public view for years. Rather than focusing on a single event, he allegedly pointed toward a pattern that he believed could no longer be overlooked. To some, these concerns represented difficult but necessary truths. To others, they threatened to reopen divisions that many hoped had been left behind. Regardless of perspective, one thing became increasingly clear. The conversation had moved beyond temporary disagreements. It had become a reckoning. As word of the dispute spread through royal circles, senior members of the family reportedly began re-evaluating relationships and assumptions that had once seemed unshakable. Figures who had previously remained neutral found themselves confronting uncomfortable questions. Could existing dynamics continue unchanged? Were certain tensions becoming too significant to dismiss? Was the institution itself beginning to feel the strain of unresolved conflicts? These were not easy questions, and the answers carried enormous consequences. Trusted advisors soon became involved as the situation intensified. What had begun as a family matter reportedly expanded into discussions involving individuals tasked with safeguarding the monarchy's long-term stability. Their involvement alone signaled the seriousness of the moment. Concerns were no longer confined to personal disagreements. They were becoming institutional concerns, matters that could influence future decisions at the highest levels. Every new conversation seemed to reveal another layer of complexity. Every attempt to find common ground appeared to uncover deeper divisions beneath it. Perhaps most striking was the realization that internal fractures could no longer be hidden. For years, unity had remained the defining public message. Now, according to those close to the situation, maintaining that image was becoming increasingly difficult. The issues at stake had grown too large. The frustrations had become too deeply rooted. The old methods of quietly moving forward no longer seemed capable of resolving what had accumulated over time. A decision had to be made. Action had to be taken. It was in this atmosphere of uncertainty, frustration, and growing urgency that plans for an emergency summit reportedly began taking shape. Senior royals understood that whatever happened next would have consequences extending far beyond a single disagreement. Relationships would be tested. Loyalties would be examined. The future balance of influence within the royal family could be altered forever. What nobody knew was that the gathering itself would produce an outcome even more shocking than the confrontation that inspired it. Yet when the summit finally began, nobody expected the alliance that would emerge inside that room. For years, observers assumed the royal family was divided into competing camps. But inside the emergency summit, those assumptions reportedly collapsed. One by one, key figures who had often remained neutral appeared to move toward William's position. The significance of that moment cannot be overstated. For so long, palace watchers had viewed the monarchy through the lens of rival alliances, personal loyalties, and carefully balanced relationships. Every disagreement seemed to reinforce the belief that different factions were quietly competing for influence behind the scenes. Yet as discussions unfolded during the emergency summit, reports suggest a very different reality began to emerge. Instead of division, there appeared to be an unexpected convergence. Instead of competing agendas, there was growing agreement that the challenges facing the monarchy required something greater than personal preference. They required unity. At the center of this shift stood Prince William. Only days earlier, he had reportedly found himself confronting concerns that many believed would remain unresolved. Yet now, as the summit progressed, his position seemed to gain momentum. What had once appeared to be a solitary effort was gradually becoming a collective one. The more the discussion expanded, the more certain members of the family reportedly began seeing the situation through a broader lens. This was no longer about individual disagreements. It was about safeguarding the institution itself. Princess Anne was among the first figures whose influence reportedly became impossible to ignore. Known throughout her life for placing duty above emotion, she had spent decades protecting the monarchy through periods of triumph and crisis alike. Sources suggest that Anne viewed the growing tensions not as isolated conflicts but as symptoms of deeper challenges facing the crown. Her support carried enormous weight. She was not known for dramatic interventions or impulsive decisions. When she chose a position, it was often because she believed the future of the institution demanded it. Her alignment with William reportedly signaled that the concerns being raised were far more serious than many had initially assumed. At the same time, Catherine emerged as an increasingly powerful voice for unity. Throughout the difficult discussions, reports suggest she consistently emphasized stability, continuity, and the importance of preserving public confidence in the monarchy. Her influence did not stem from confrontation, but from her ability to bring clarity during moments of uncertainty. While others debated immediate disputes, Catherine reportedly focused attention on the larger picture. What kind of monarchy would future generations inherit? What decisions made today might shape public trust tomorrow? Those questions began resonating throughout the room. Then came another unexpected development. Prince Edward and Sophie reportedly aligned themselves with what many described as institutional priorities, rather than personal loyalties. Their involvement strengthened the growing sense that this discussion had evolved beyond family disagreements. The focus increasingly shifted toward the long-term future of the crown. Senior advisors participating in consultations allegedly reinforced the same message. Stability mattered. Continuity mattered. The monarchy's ability to navigate uncertainty depended upon presenting a united and disciplined path forward. As hours passed, the coalition around William reportedly became impossible to dismiss. Individuals who might once have remained cautious appeared increasingly willing to support a shared vision for the future. The emotional weight of the moment was immense. Years of frustration, concern, and uncertainty seemed to converge within a single discussion. What had begun as an emergency response to escalating tensions was transforming into something much larger, a defining test of leadership, loyalty, and purpose. For William, the experience was reportedly both validating and sobering. Support was arriving from unexpected places, yet the consequences of that support carried enormous implications. Every alliance formed inside that room altered the balance of influence. Every expression of agreement made the reality harder to ignore. A new consensus appeared to be taking shape, and with it came a painful truth that nobody could avoid forever. But the most difficult moment was still to come, the moment Camilla realized how isolated she had become. As discussions continued, a painful reality reportedly became impossible to ignore. The support Queen Camilla may have expected never fully materialized. Instead, the room seemed increasingly united around a different vision for the future of the monarchy. At first, the shift was subtle. Conversations remained measured, responses were careful. Nobody openly declared victory, and nobody openly acknowledged defeat. Yet according to those familiar with the atmosphere surrounding the summit, the direction of the discussion was becoming increasingly difficult to miss. One by one, participants reportedly returned to the same central concern: the long-term stability of the crown. It was not a personal attack, it was not a public confrontation, but with every passing exchange, the focus appeared to move further away from individual loyalties and closer toward institutional priorities. For Camilla, that change may have carried a weight far greater than any direct criticism ever could. Reports suggest that as different perspectives were shared, efforts to gather meaningful support became increasingly challenging. The arguments being presented were no longer centered on personalities. Instead, they revolved around questions of continuity, public trust, and the future path of the monarchy. Those themes resonated throughout the room. Senior royals, who may once have viewed issues through different lenses, reportedly found themselves arriving at remarkably similar conclusions. What made the moment so significant was not the volume of agreement, but its consistency. Again and again, discussions returned to the same fundamental principle: the institution had to come first. As that realization spread, long-standing frustrations reportedly began surfacing in ways they never had before. Concerns that had remained private for years were revisited. Old disagreements were examined through a new perspective. Incidents that once seemed isolated were suddenly viewed as part of a broader pattern. For some participants, the summit became an opportunity to address questions they had quietly carried for a long time. For others, it was a moment of reckoning, a chance to acknowledge challenges that could no longer be postponed. The emotional intensity reportedly grew with every conversation. What made the situation particularly difficult was that several members of the family appeared determined to emphasize loyalty to the crown above all else. This was not merely a discussion about present circumstances, it was a debate about legacy, about responsibility, about what future generations would inherit once today's leaders were gone. Those themes carried enormous emotional weight because they transcended personal relationships. They forced everyone involved to consider what sacrifices might be required to protect something larger than themselves. As the hours passed, the atmosphere reportedly became increasingly tense. Every statement seemed to carry greater significance than the one before it. Every pause felt heavier. Every decision appeared connected to consequences that could reshape internal relationships for years. The room was no longer wrestling with temporary disagreements. It was confronting a fundamental question about where authority, influence, and trust would ultimately reside. The answers were not easy. They never could be. For Camilla, the realization may have been particularly painful. Reports suggest there came a point when the balance of power inside the summit became impossible to ignore. The alliances forming around William were no longer isolated expressions of support. They were becoming a collective position, a shared understanding, a growing consensus about the monarchy's future direction. The momentum that had been building quietly for months now appeared to be unfolding in real time. And perhaps most unsettling of all was the realization that the shift was not being driven by a single individual. It was emerging from across the institution itself. The emotional contrast was striking. For years, influence had often been measured through proximity, relationships, and trusted connections. Now the conversation had evolved into something far larger. The focus had shifted toward duty, continuity, and the survival of the institution beyond any one person. As that reality settled over the gathering, many reportedly sensed that a decisive moment was approaching. The summit had reached a point where uncertainty could no longer continue indefinitely. Everyone knew that sooner or later, a voice would have to bring clarity to the growing tension. And when King Charles finally spoke, the future direction of the monarchy appeared clearer than ever before. For King Charles, the summit presented an impossible dilemma. Torn between personal loyalty and royal duty, he faced one of the most delicate moments of his reign. Every word carried consequences that could reshape relationships for years to come. As the room fell into an uneasy silence, attention reportedly shifted toward the one person whose judgment could ultimately influence the outcome more than anyone else's. For hours, concerns had been raised, frustrations had been aired, and competing visions for the monarchy's future had been debated with increasing intensity. Yet despite everything that had been said, there remained a sense that the most important voice had not yet fully entered the conversation. King Charles had listened carefully. He had allowed others to speak. He had absorbed perspectives from every side. Now, according to those familiar with the atmosphere surrounding the summit, many understood that the moment of decision was drawing near. What made the situation so difficult was the deeply personal nature of the choices before him. Charles was not simply acting as a monarch overseeing an institutional dispute. He was also a husband, a father, a brother, and a man carrying decades of relationships that could not easily be separated from the responsibilities of the crown. Every concern raised during the discussions touched on people he knew intimately. Every argument carried emotional consequences. Yet at the same time, he was entrusted with protecting an institution that existed far beyond any individual. That tension reportedly weighed heavily over the proceedings. Throughout the summit, concerns about the monarchy's future continued dominating the conversation. Again and again, participants returned to questions of stability, public trust, and long-term continuity. What kind of leadership would be required in the years ahead? How could confidence in the institution be preserved during a period of uncertainty? What sacrifices might be necessary to ensure that future generations inherited a monarchy capable of enduring new challenges? These questions were not easily answered, but they demanded attention. Ignoring them was no longer an option. The king's health reportedly added another emotional dimension to the moment. Those gathered around him understood that the pressures he faced extended far beyond the Moscow summit itself. The demands of leadership had become increasingly complex, and every major decision carried greater significance because of the circumstances surrounding his reign. That reality was impossible to ignore. It gave urgency to every discussion and emotional weight to every recommendation offered throughout the day. As deliberations continued, calls for unity reportedly became increasingly difficult to resist. Senior members of the family stressed the importance of presenting a clear and stable direction for the monarchy. Advisors emphasized public confidence. Others argued that uncertainty itself posed a growing risk. Different viewpoints remained, but a common theme had emerged. Whatever happened next, the institution needed clarity. It needed purpose. And above all, it needed cohesion. Reports suggest that as Charles considered everything he had heard, he gradually leaned toward preserving institutional stability above competing interests. That did not mean the decision was easy. If anything, it made the situation even more painful. Choosing stability often required difficult compromises. It demanded placing duty above emotion and responsibility above comfort. Yet many believed that was precisely the burden carried by those entrusted with safeguarding the crown. When the discussions finally began winding down, participants reportedly sensed that something fundamental had changed. No dramatic declaration was required. No public announcement was necessary. The direction of the conversation itself seemed to reveal where the momentum now rested. The summit, that had begun amid uncertainty, appeared to conclude with a growing consensus about the path forward. Yet while some questions had been answered, others were only beginning to emerge. Because decisions made behind closed doors rarely remain confined to a single room. Their effects spread outward, touching relationships, feelings, influencing perceptions, and reshaping the future in ways nobody can fully predict. But while the summit may have ended, its consequences were only beginning to unfold. When the meeting concluded, the doors opened, and the participants returned to public view. Yet something had undeniably changed. Palace observers quickly sensed that a new power structure might be emerging behind the scenes. The summit itself had ended, but its impact was already beginning to ripple through every corner of royal life. Those who had gathered behind closed doors emerged into a world eager for answers, yet none were likely to provide them. Officially, nothing extraordinary had occurred. No dramatic announcements were made. No public statements revealed the intensity of the discussions that had taken place. And yet, according to those who closely follow the movements and relationships within the monarchy, the atmosphere surrounding the senior royals felt noticeably different. Something had shifted. something significant. And even without direct confirmation, people could sense it. Almost immediately, attention focused on the participants themselves. Every appearance, every interaction, every subtle change in routine became the subject of intense scrutiny. Palace observers searched for clues. Journalists analyzed schedules. Royal commentators speculated about what might have transpired during the extraordinary gathering. The mystery only deepened because no one seemed eager to address it publicly. Silence, in many ways, became the loudest message of all. Inside palace walls, reports suggest staff members were among the first to notice changes. Not dramatic transformations, but subtle adjustments in tone, communication, and internal dynamics. Conversations reportedly carried a different energy. Priorities appeared more clearly defined. Individuals who had entered the summit with uncertainty seemed to emerge with a stronger sense of direction. For many observers, these developments reinforced the growing belief that important decisions had been made, even if those decisions remained hidden from public view. Perhaps nowhere was this shift more evident than in perceptions surrounding Prince William. According to royal insiders, his position appeared stronger than it had before the summit began. The concerns he had raised were no longer viewed as isolated frustrations. They had become part of a broader conversation about the monarchy's future. More importantly, he no longer seemed to be carrying those concerns alone. The alliances that reportedly formed during the summit gave the impression of a future king, increasingly surrounded by figures who shared his priorities and supported his vision. That perception alone represented a significant development. At the same time, Catherine and Princess Anne appeared to emerge from the gathering with enhanced influence. Their roles during the discussions reportedly left a lasting impression on many who were aware of what had taken place. Catherine continued to be viewed as a source of stability during a period of uncertainty, while Anne's steadfast commitment to duty seemed to reinforce her status as one of the monarchy's most respected voices. Together, they represented continuity, discipline, and a deep commitment to the institution itself. Their growing prominence only fueled further speculation about the direction in which the royal family was heading. As rumors spread throughout royal circles, questions multiplied. What agreements had been reached? What concerns had been addressed? Had the summit merely resolved an immediate dispute? Or had it reshaped relationships in a more permanent way? Nobody seemed certain. Yet the uncertainty itself became part of the story. The less information emerged, the more people speculated. And with each new theory, attention increasingly turned toward one figure whose future role suddenly appeared less predictable than before. Questions surrounding Camilla's influence became impossible to avoid. Reports suggest that many within royal circles began wondering whether the balance of power had fundamentally changed. Had the summit revealed a new center of influence within the monarchy? Had long-standing assumptions about internal dynamics been overturned? The answers remained hidden behind palace walls, but the questions refused to disappear. They lingered in conversations, in headlines, and in the minds of those watching closely. As days passed, the immediate drama of the summit slowly began to fade. Yet beneath the surface, its consequences continued unfolding. Relationships were evolving, perceptions were changing, and while some mysteries remained unsolved, one reality appeared increasingly clear. The royal family had entered a new chapter, and nobody could yet predict where it would lead. And as the dust began to settle, one final question lingered over the entire royal family. The secret summit may never be fully revealed to the public, yet its impact could echo through the monarchy for years. What began as an emergency gathering reportedly evolved into a defining moment, one that exposed loyalties, tested relationships, and reshaped the balance of power. In many ways, that is what makes this story so compelling. Not because every detail is known, but because so much remains hidden. The monarchy has always been an institution built upon tradition, discretion, and carefully protected conversations. Some of its most important decisions never appear in official statements. Some of its most consequential moments unfold far from public view. And according to reports surrounding this extraordinary summit, what occurred behind those closed doors may ultimately be remembered as one of those moments. As speculation continued spreading through royal circles, one conclusion appeared increasingly difficult to ignore. Prince William emerged from the crisis stronger than before. This was not necessarily because he achieved a personal victory, or because every concern he raised was accepted without question. Rather, it was because the summit reportedly revealed something much more significant. It demonstrated that his vision for the future of the monarchy resonated with many of the suffrage. The support that formed around him was not built on convenience. It appeared rooted in a shared belief that stability, continuity, and long-term planning would be essential for navigating the challenges ahead. At the same time, the royal family itself seemed to emerge with a renewed sense of purpose. The divisions that had fueled months of speculation did not magically disappear. Families are rarely that simple, yet reports suggest that the summit created a stronger consensus around institutional priorities than had existed before. The focus shifted away from individual interests and toward collective responsibility. That change may ultimately prove to be the summit's most enduring legacy. Princess Anne, Catherine, and Prince Edward reportedly played important roles in that transformation. Each brought a different perspective, yet all appeared united by a commitment to protecting the crown through a period of uncertainty. Anne's unwavering devotion to duty, Catherine's calming influence, and Edward's measured approach reportedly helped reinforce the message that the monarchies required cooperation rather than division. Their influence did not necessarily come from speaking the loudest. It came from embodying the values many believed the institution needed most. Meanwhile, King Charles faced the difficult task of guiding the monarchy through one of the most challenging chapters of his reign. Reports suggest his focus remained firmly fixed on preserving stability during a period filled with pressure, scrutiny, and personal challenges. In many respects, the summit reflected the broader reality of his reign itself, a constant, balancing act between competing interests, family relationships, and the demands of leadership. The decisions made during that gathering may have been difficult, but they were reportedly driven by a desire to protect the institution for generations to come. For Camilla, however, questions continued lingering long after the summit ended. No official changes were announced. No dramatic declarations were made. Yet the conversations surrounding her future influence seemed impossible to silence. Had the balance of power shifted permanently? Had the alliances revealed during the summit altered the monarchy's internal dynamics? Or was this simply a temporary moment born from extraordinary circumstances? Nobody outside the room could say for certain. Yet the very existence of those questions demonstrated how profoundly the gathering had affected perceptions throughout royal circles. Perhaps that is why the summit has already taken on a symbolic significance that extends beyond any single dispute. It has become a story about loyalty tested under pressure, about duty confronting personal allegiance, about a family wrestling with difficult choices while carrying the weight of an institution that represents far more than itself. It was a reminder that behind every royal title, every ceremony, and every tradition are done for as individuals, forced to navigate impossible decisions in pursuit of something larger than their own interests. And as the years pass, the details of what happened during that extraordinary gathering may remain locked away from public view. Yet its legacy could continue shaping the monarchy long after the conversations themselves have been forgotten. Because some turning points announce themselves loudly, while others reveal their importance only with time. And according to those who have followed this story from the beginning, this may well have been one of those rare moments when the future quietly changed direction behind closed doors. Because in the end, the greatest battles within the royal family are rarely fought in public. They are decided behind closed doors, where loyalty, duty, and legacy collide. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.